Good morning, folks. Good morning, and welcome to our session. So, whether you're a company with several dozen employees or several thousand employees, business intelligence is an important capability. It's also a solution in that, there's the initial implementation of it, and then there's the continued maintenance, enhancements, the whole life cycle of it. So in our presentation today, we're going to talk about and we're going to show you how to actually implement the BI solution using the pre-built content and the tools that come as a part of the Microsoft Dynamics 2012 product. So my name is Milinda Vitarna, and I'm a program manager. I work for Microsoft. I'm based in Redmond.
And my name is David Boline. I'm also a program manager. I work on the Dynamics AX Financials team, and my group is based out of Fargo. I think everyone's probably seen this by now, but in case you have not, just a disclaimer that this is a pre-release product and subject to change. So before we get into the details of the BI solutions, we want to step back and look at the personas, the people and the roles that take advantage of and make use of the BI solution set. At the top of the list, we have Sarah, who is the Chief Financial Officer. Her interest in the BI solution set is the need to get at relevant and meaningful and actionable information. The need to have the information quickly. The more quickly the information can be made available, the better. To stem off, if there's an issue, the information may help stop the issue from getting worse. And also important to Sarah is making use of tools that she's familiar with. Sarah is actually kind of an end user representative, if you will. Any end user would have these same needs and desires that need to be met. We're going to be talking about Sarah specifically, and we'll bring Arnie in, who's another end user, as part of our demo. But again, they're just representative of the larger end user group.
Of course, if you consider the day in the life of Simon, who's our implementer or a consultant, he lives and breathes complexity. BI solutions are generally complex because there's lots of moving parts in there. And as an implementer, of course, I want to implement my solution quickly without much pain so that the users can start using the BI solution quickly. But of course, meeting the needs of the users is important. So, as an implementer, you're looking to perhaps customize, tweak the system, and you need to have that flexibility. And of course, at last but not the least, as a developer, there's developers who might be doing customizations, who might be implementing features. The key requirement is to remain productive. Because as you know, as a developer, your development times are getting shorter and shorter. Your complexity is increasing. So, you want to remain productive. And there's probably two ways of doing that. One is reuse the existing business logic and code and metadata as much as possible in case of BI. And of course, the ability to use tools that you're already familiar with.
So here's a graphic representation of the pre-built BI solution set. It's a powerful set of capabilities. If we look kind of on the left and bottom left, we've got the Dynamics AX 2012 database. That feeds the tool set to the right. And it also feeds the analysis cubes directly above that. And above that, we have the analysis cubes with our 11 out-of-the-box analysis cubes from finance and supply chain, services and workflow. And together, those feed the tool set in the middle of this graphic. At the top, we have literally dozens of role centers that are shipping with this product. These target individuals that fall within that role category. Below that, we have some 150 analytic reports that also ship with the product. We have Excel-based report templates. And in our demo today, we're going to actually use Excel to connect to an analysis cube to show the power of that. Below that, we have production reports, the backbone of which is the SSAS report framework. And then we also have SharePoint, which kind of ties all of these together and makes them available to the personas, again, that are representative of the larger end user group on the right-hand side.
So David spoke about the richness of the pre-built content that come with the Dynamics AX 2012 product. Also, another capability is the power of tools and solutions, of tools and capabilities that are built into the product. Now, it's a crowded slide. There's lots of capabilities and tools. I'm not going to talk to it. But the idea is that, I mean, if you look at the left column, you'll see the BI taxonomy, sort of a industry standard way of categorizing these tools. And on the middle column, we list some of the capabilities that are available in the product. So if you really look at, the category of query, what you'll find is that, there's predefined queries. So if you're an operational persona, there are a certain set of queries that you use pretty much every day. And we've actually built them into the AX user experience. And the idea is if you want to, maybe search for information, either, let's say, search for a customer, either inside a form or inside an archived report, there's capabilities built into that. And of course, the idea is, you would want to build ad hoc queries on your own, and there's capability to use some of the existing tools, or there's capabilities built into the interface. So the reason why I keep on repeating the word built in is that, we believe that powerful BI capabilities is actually part of the product. So while you will find familiar tools here, you will also find that most of these capabilities are built into the AX user experience so that the user does not experience a disconnect between what he or she is doing every day and the BI capabilities and the BI features. So if you look at reporting, there's different kinds of reporting. There's, of course, the ability to create your own documents. You can do so with the new Excel add-in that we have created for Microsoft Dynamics 2012. And then, of course, ad hoc reporting using tools like SQL Report Builder. And, of course, the ability to create statutory and financial reports using tools like Management Reporter or the built-in AX report definition tools. And, of course, the production reports, which are more rigid. But then the idea is, they cater to some of your production requirements. And, of course, when you get to analysis, there's things like KPIs, dashboards, and, of course, further down, if you have, if your company has an existing data warehouse, there's the ability to integrate the pre-built content with an existing data warehouse. So, what I wanted to highlight here was basically the powerful capabilities and tools that are available in Microsoft Dynamics 2012. Now, the richness of the solution, the power of the tools, they're very important. But then one of the things that we found out in talking to customers and partners is generally, especially in ERP systems of the past, BI used to be a layer that you slash on top of your ERP solution. Now, the problem with this approach is, you implement your ERP, and by the time you get your BI solution, it's probably your phase 2 or phase 3 of the implementation. Now, in a next generation ERP like Dynamics AX 2012, BI is a key part of the user experience. So what we wanted to do was to enable you to implement the BI solution as a part of the ERP implementation, right up at the front. So in order to do that, we've invested a lot in improving the capabilities and making it very simple to do so. And so, here's how we've done that. Of course, we have the pre-built cubes. And what we've done is we've come up with a graphical step-by-step wizard-based UI, which will enable you to initially deploy the BI solution that comes with the product. And of course, that's not the end of the story. As you make the initial deployment, in your ERP solution, you'll make certain changes to the configuration. You'll define additional metadata. So you would want to bring that richness into your cubes. So the wizard-driven UI will help you there. It'll just help you to bring those enhancements into cubes. And of course, beyond that, what would happen is, as users tend to use these analytic content, they might want to make changes there. And some of the most common customizations that we've seen, we've actually provided you a wizard-driven UI to do that step by step. And of course, the next is you might want to create additional content, additional cubes, enrich them by creating your own. Again, the most common, the common aspects are taken care of. So the idea is we've really looked at the life cycle of a BI project. And we've built in a wizard-driven UI that will guide you step by step most of the way. Right? Now, of course, now some of you may have existing data warehouses. Some of you may be using already pre-built solutions. Some of you may have complex requirements. Now, how do you actually integrate the pre-built content with existing data warehouses or existing BI content or existing applications? So what we've really done is, in building our pre-built content, we've made sure that our pre-built content are a first-class citizen of the Microsoft BI stack. Now, the Microsoft BI stack is the best BI stack in the world. And there's an ecosystem out there of developers, of ISV tools, of technology that leverage the stack. So by being a good citizen of that framework, we've actually made it possible for you to take the pre-built content and integrate it with existing content, right? And let me show you how. So this is a typical BI architecture. I mean, of course, Dynamics AX is a source to the BI content. And you have the BI platform based on the Microsoft SQL Server technology. And of course, you have the application layer on top of that. And in fact, the BI content that comes with it are built on the SQL Server framework. And of course, in this case, the application layer includes the Dynamics AX 2012, the core application, because that's the biggest consumer of the BI content, plus also other tools. Now, the outer layer, of course, as David mentioned earlier, is based on Microsoft Office SharePoint Server. The idea is, you would create reports, role centers, Power Pivot models. All these content will be shared and collaborated using a SharePoint environment. So you have access, you have the collaboration capabilities, you have the search capabilities built on top of that. So as you can see, what we've really done is being a good citizen of the Microsoft BI framework, we've actually enabled you to extend the pre-built solution to meet your needs.
Components in action today include the following: a very brief overview. On the application layer, we have the analysis cubes that we want to highlight. We want to talk a little bit about the role centers. And those work with and interact with the OLAP, the Online Analytical Processing Framework, and the SSRS framework below that. So we have this kind of graphically represents the demonstrations that we want to do today. There are 5 demos we're going to do. If we look at the top left box, that's kind of our starting point. Once Dynamics AX 2012 has been installed, the first thing we want to do is deploy the analysis cubes. So that's kind of step 1. As soon as that step is taken care of, the arrow to the right points to the end user representatives. As soon as the cubes have been deployed, those users can immediately begin taking advantage of the BI solutions. We've got the role centers, we've got the reports, we've got the analysis cubes. Through the process of this life cycle that we're trying to demonstrate today, the user group, as Melinda said, they may come across the need for enhancements or changes made to the cubes, for example. And when those requests come up, they feed back to the left, over to the IT side of the chart, and we have Simon and Isaac making enhancements to the cubes and customizations and so forth. So it's kind of the life cycle that we want to walk through in our demos today.
So I'm going to be driving the first demo, and I'm actually feeling really good today. So what I'm going to do is implement BI solution from the setup to the deployment and in front of a live audience. So, okay, so first time when you set up AX client, when you've done the upgrade or when you've done the initialization, this is typically what you see. Right? When you launch the client, of course, you'll see your familiar menu structure. And of course, you set up production reporting as well, so your reports are functional. But the moment you set up and deploy the role centers, the moment you set up EP, you'll see this home page coming up. And then when you go into the home page, this is what every user will see. This is what we call the default home page, as in, none of the role centers or user profiles have been assigned yet, right? And this default role center doesn't have any BI content because we haven't really deployed the BI content yet, right? So what we're going to do next is we're going to actually go through the setup process and deploy the contents, right? So time me, if you will, to see how long it takes. Now, in order to do that, first, I'll go into an analysis server, right? Now, I need to go into an analysis server, and I need to run the AX setup wizard. And let me run that. And when I run that, you know, you're probably very familiar. If you're a systems implementer, you're very familiar with the AX setup wizard. This is the wizard that does AX setup. And let me say add components. And here's the analysis services configuration. So what we're doing is first, now we're on the analysis server. We want to configure the analysis server so that our cubes can be deployed, right? So let me check this option. And now immediately what the setup wizard will do is it'll check for prereqs. There are certain components, there are certain configurations that need to be there. The system will check for that. And if those things fail, you know, the system will actually help you to bring them online. Now, the next thing it does, you may not realize the importance of this test, of this step. I'll get to it in a little while. The system wants to get the BC proxy account, right? Now, of course, you can have multiple instances of SSAS server on this box. So you need to choose an SSAS instance that you want to configure for analysis services. I've done that. And of course, cubes need to connect to an AX database. Now, the setup wizard knows the AOS, therefore it defaults that for you. So I'm going to select next because the cubes need to be processed with some data, right? So you need to point to the AOS. Now, of course, cube processing, you know, a certain user account has to be designated for cube processing. So I need to pick that here. Now, we're all ready to go. We've asked all the questions that are required, and the system is going to do a final validation before it starts the configuration process. Okay, everything is good. Now, we're going to start the configuration process, right? Now, we asked a couple of questions while this is going on. Now, we asked what the BC proxy account was. Does anyone know? Has anyone heard of BC proxy account? Quick show of hands. Okay, a few of you have. You know, if you haven't, well, here's basically what we do. Now, in earlier versions, if you were installing analysis extensions on a different server, you had to set up this thing called Kerberos constraint delegation. Bottom line is it's pretty hard to do, right? And no one likes to do it. So in AX 2012, you don't do it. You don't need to do it. You do not need KCD authentication in any of the servers. Okay, so I was expecting standing ovation, but anyway, that's okay. All right. Thank you. So we're going ahead with the configuration process right now. And it's done with the setup. Now, it's actually looking for updates. So there is any updates posted, it'll do that for you. And bingo, we've done. So the analysis server has been primed. It's ready to go. And what the system will show me is a post-implementation report. So basically, the system says, hey, you know, I've looked at all the configurations. Now, here are the things you need to do next, right? And the thing I need to do next is deploy the cubes using the analysis services wizard, right? So let me just go and do that now. So let's minimize them. And let me get back to the client. So here's the wizard-driven UI that we talked about earlier, which you would use for some of the most common operations in BI. So I've launched the wizard. And this wizard will help you do a couple of things. But in this case, I just want to deploy the cubes so that my users will start you know, using role centers. Now, one of the things you'll notice in AX 2012 is that the analysis project ships in the AOT. Who's heard of AOT before? Oh, quite a few of you. Good. So basically, you know, the BI components are now full part of a full citizen of the AOT, you know, with all the layering and all the good stuff that it gives. So in other words, if your ISV solution of your partner, you know, now has the ability to ship you something that's built on that layer, So if you have customizations, if there's a, let's say, an ISV solution, now they have the ability to ship a project in their layer. So let me select next here. And of course, now, the wizard asks me the server and the instance to which to deploy the cubes. Of course, you can pick any server. You can give any name to the analysis instance. And it'll deploy. It'll also process from here. But to save a little bit of time, I'm not going to process. So I'm just going to say next, right? So now the cubes are being deployed into the server that we picked, right? And what's actually happening now is, in addition to just the deployment of the cubes into the server, the wizard is also doing some validations to make sure that the cube processing will be successful, right? So because you just set up AX, there are certain master data and there are certain requirements that are needed for the cubes to process successfully. The wizard will actually try to look for those requirements and tell you in advance, right? Another way in which we have simplified this complex, cubes have lots of requirements. Another way in which we can warn you in ahead so that you can take a look at it before it actually fails, right? So it's doing an actual deployment, so this might take a minute or two. There you go. So there were a couple of warnings. I'm gonna say OK because it'll just tell me what those warnings are in a little while. So the system is doing some prereq checks, some prerequisite checks. So how am I doing on time? Was anyone timing me for this? Okay, okay. So the pre-built solution has a set of pre-built dimensions and cubes, and that schema is available. So at this point in time, we haven't customized it. We're just deploying the pre-built solution, right? And the pre-built solution has been, built by internal Microsoft teams in anticipation of most of the requirements and so on and so forth. So these are the warnings that I mentioned. So in this case, David, looks like there's something with the main accounts. What's this?
So main account categories are used for certain BI calculations. For the processing of KPIs, for example, in cube-based reports, the calculation includes these account categories as part of the equation in the calculation. So what this error message list is saying is that some of the account categories are not assigned to main accounts. And so it's important at this point to call this out. If this process has not been done within an organization, none of the BI calculations are going to work. The KPIs aren't going to calculate. We know in this particular case that, in fact, the process has gone through. It's not uncommon to have some main accounts that do not get assigned to a main account category.
So basically, we're OK. I mean,
Yes.
the cube is warning, saying, hey, there are certain master data that are not defined, but you looked at it, it's basically OK. You're happy with it.
Correct.
All right. So I'm going to close it. And basically, we've done the deployment, and we're complete. So what have we done up to now? We've gone through the steps of, initializing the server. We've made sure the server is configured. We've deployed the cubes. And the next thing we need to do is assign users into these role center profiles, right, so that they can start using role centers right away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into, assume that I'm a systems administrator. I'm going to go into systems administration menu, and I'm going to launch this form that basically shows me a list of available role centers out of the box. So as you can see, there are 35 pre-built sort of dashboards or role centers. And what I need to do is I need to go and assign the CFO role to Sarah, who is our CFO, so that she can start using the role centers right away. So once I do that, and of course I can do that by doing add user, and I can select the available list of users, and I can assign a user to that. So with that, we've set up roles, we've deployed cubes, we've configured users to role center profiles.
So that brings us to demo number 2. Sarah, the Chief Financial Officer, again has a need to get at relevant information, meaningful, actionable information in a timely manner, and through the use of familiar tools. In this case, we're gonna look at the role center that Sarah makes use of, and we're going to look at some collections information just to do a checkpoint on our collection status for the organization. We have kind of a companion demo. Sarah's going to find information that she wants additional detail for, so we're going to bring Arnie into the picture and ask Arnie to look into details behind Sarah's request, looking at Arnie's role center and then connecting to an analysis cube using Excel.
So David, you're going to start as the CFO. CFO is going to find a problem, and then you're going to, again, show Arnie, who's an accounts receivable person, sort of digging into the details.
Correct.
Perfect.
So here's the CFO role center. I just want to walk through some of the BI elements and highlight some of the components herein. Upper left, we have the CFO profitability analysis. This is an SSAS report that displays KPI information. It's very quick and easy for any user to see, looking at the status indicators, green and red. Yellow is also a possibility here, but green and red in this case. Green is good. We're good to go. Red is something we may want to investigate further. In addition to the status for the KPIs, we have the trend information. The trend information compares this period versus last period. Are we moving in the right direction? Are we turning south? So a report that makes it easy to gauge the health of the organization. To the right of that, we have a work list that contains information that's relevant to Sarah. Below these, we have a sales in the past periods chart. Again, any organization is going to be very interested in the revenue for the company, and this chart helps graphically depict that. Kind of a companion report is the top top customers by year-to-date sales, and further down we have links. We can add. The user can go in and add their own link to Dun & Bradstreet or Hoover's or whatever makes sense for their capacity. We have a Connect web part, and the last one I want to talk about is My Reports. Again, we want to look at collections information today. Sarah is interested in checking the health of our receivables. So she selects to run this report. We have parameters selected for the report, and while this renders, I will hide the parameters.
So, David, this is a production report that Sarah has just added to her role center.
Yes, on the role center, production reports are available to add to that report's web part, and this is one that was added by Sarah. We can see, looking left to right, we have the customer account name, and of interest are the amount columns. We have the not due and the current, which are not a concern to Sarah right now. But we have a lot of numbers in the over 180 days. Part of that is the demo data, the nature of the demo data. And we're assuming that Sarah has contacted Connie, the credit collections manager, and her team is actively working on that column of data. The ones that are of interest to Sarah then are the 90 days and the 180 days. And if we go to the bottom of the report, we can see the totals for those two. We've got almost $5,000 within the 90-day bucket, and about 10 times as much, $51,000 in the 180-day bucket. So it's that ladder that Sarah is interested in gathering more information for. So she contacts Arnie, phones or emails Arnie, the accounts receivable administrator, to try and get a profile or a better definition of what makes up that 180-day $51,000 amount. So we switch over to Arnie's role center. Arnie, again, is the accounts receivable administrator. This role center is a little more of a task-oriented role center. You can see by virtue of the activities web part in the upper left here. You can also see cube-based reports. We've got top customers by year-to-date sales. We have receivables in the past periods chart below that. With regard to the activities, Arnie can go in and begin responding to Sarah's request by checking customers past due. Might be a place where he would start. And in this case, we open up a list page, and Arnie can go in and sort. He can search for a customer by name, for example, And this is kind of like an ad hoc query. You can filter down to a particular customer or just work through the list. And you'll notice the fact boxes on the right-hand side here. These are contextual based on the selection from the list. So as we move down the list, the fact box values and amounts are going to change. So in this case, Arnie's not finding the information that he wants in this list page. So he decides to do a custom report in Excel by connecting to the accounts receivable analysis cube. So he opens up Excel, and it's very easy to connect to an analysis cube. We select the data tab and from other sources, and in this case we want to connect to analysis services. This is the database that was just deployed and processed. And when we open up the connection, we see all of the cubes that are available to connect to. In this case, we want to use the accounts receivable cube. I'll select that, and when I push the finish button, I'm going to get an informational message saying that I already have this connection. I just wanted to show how easy it is to make the connection. So there's that informational message. Again, I already have the connection. I'm going to select the default here and create a pivot table report. I'll select OK. At this point, the pivot table field list on the right shows me what is available, excuse me, what is available from the accounts receivable cube to work with. We have two primary components. We have the measure information, that's the amounts, and then we have dimension information, which is how we slice the amounts by. So we're interested in the open customer transactions, the amounts yet to be paid. So I'm going to bring that into the report as a starting point. That's our measure amount. I know that I'm going to want to look at this by customer, so I'm going to select a customer dimension to slice the amount information by. And I'm going to bring in customer name because I'm most familiar with that. And a third dimension that I want to bring in is a date orientation for this data. So I'm going to go down to the due date dimension group and select year, quarter, month, and date. I know that by virtue of the fact that it's 180-day bucketed information, it represents quarter 4 of 2010. So I can filter down to that particular calendar or that particular quarter if I want. I'll just narrow it down to calendar 2010. And so the report is already starting to take shape. We've got customer information, we've got the time orientation, and we've got the amounts that we're interested in. I will format the amounts just to make it a little bit easier to read. And then I can expand. This calendar information is in a hierarchical format. So under year we have quarter, and under quarter we have month. And again, it was quarter 4 that we were most interested in. So we see that we have two customers, the Barrie Conference Center and the Maple Company, that represent this information. So we have the customer information, we have the time information, the calendar quarter information, and for any amount in an analysis cube spreadsheet like this, if you click on the cell for a particular amount, there's a drill through capability that shows you the transactions that make up that aggregated amount. So in this case, we'll double click on the quarter 4 total, and there are only 2 transactions, but these transactions tell Arnie exactly what he needs to know, and he can report now back to Sarah with findings about the transactions and the information, and can also forward the information to Connie and the credit collections department. They can attach this report to a case for further review and analysis by the collections agent. So that's a quick summary of a quick overview of the role centers for the CFO. Thank you. And Arnie, and showing the capabilities and how easy it is to connect to analysis cubes in Excel, as well as showing one of the many production reports that are available.
So thank you, David. you showed how rich they are out of the box. But of course, when users start using a BI solution, there's new requirements that come up. Because, and these new requirements will be in terms of, okay, there are certain metadata that you've added in AX. Now you want to bring that into the cubes. Or it could be in terms of, I want to slice this by a different calendar that I have defined for, maybe our subsidiary in Asia runs a different calendar than we do. So you might want to define a new calendar and bring that in into your cube so that those folks can slice it. Or you might want to, add Arabic or Chinese translations into your cube so that folks in those countries can make use of the content. So basically what we've done is, now what we're going to see is how the systems implementer or a consultant who's not a BI expert, how this person is going to add some of those most common customizations into analysis cubes, right? So now what you're seeing here is the Dynamics AX 2012 developer UI. Is anyone familiar with this UI? Okay, most of you are. So this is the AOT. And of course, as an implementer, you're very familiar with this interface. And what we're going to do is launch the analysis project wizard. And I'm going to now, you've seen this wizard before. Now, instead of deploy, now earlier we used the deploy path of it. Now I'm going to say update. Because what I want to do is to update the existing analysis project. Now, we said that this project lives in the AOT, right? And there's this new Visual Studio Projects node in the AOT. I'm sorry, it's on your bottom left. And this is the node that has all these analysis projects, right? So what I'm going to do is in the wizard, I'm going to, oh, there you go. I'm going to select that project. Now again, if it was a project that was given to you by your ISV or your partner, obviously you'll be selecting the project in that correct layer. In this case, I'm choosing the one in the sys layer. Now, before the wizard actually starts to do any of these updates, it will validate that the existing project is correct and that it builds accurately, right? So it does. And now, there are a couple of customizations that you can do with the wizard. One of them is changes to perspectives. So for those of you who are not familiar with perspectives, perspectives is the AX metadata-driven approach in defining new cubes and dimensions. So I've opened the perspectives node here. You see all these cube schemas that ship out of the box. And what you can actually do is you can actually modify these out-of-the-box cube schemas with using metadata. So for an example, you can say this is the accounts receivable cube, and we enable the properties, accounts receivable cube, and you can actually drag and drop AX views and tables into these and model new dimensions, new cubes, and so on and so forth, right? But at this point in time, I'm not doing any metadata changes. I'm not making any changes here. So I'm going to just select the existing metadata. Of course, you probably heard of the enhancements done in Microsoft Dynamics AX 2012 to the dimensions framework. In earlier versions, the dimensions framework had some limitations. Now you have the ability to define an unlimited number of financial dimensions, right? So that you can enrich your chart of accounts with known entities and so on. Now the idea is, depending on what financial dimensions you define, you can just include them in the cubes so you can slice and dice by them, right? And in this case, I'm selecting cost center, department, purpose, but then I have the option to select these other ones as well. Of course, the other interesting thing is, now I mentioned that you can define new calendars. So the idea is, you might have subsidiaries, they follow different calendars. You have this ability to define Gregorian calendars. You can provide the starting month, and in case your week does not start from a Monday, maybe depending on when your week starts, and of course you can add hierarchies, and if you've done this before, you probably know what this is. The idea is you can define additional calendars and just add those calendars into the wizard. So the idea is whenever there are dates, we'll make sure that those dates are sliceable by all these different calendars, right? Now, the metadata that we have in the system, they're aware of the language support that AX provides. So if you want to add additional languages here, all you have to do is just add these languages here. So the cubes will automatically have the ability to have translations in Arabic, Chinese, and English. We support all the AX languages that are supported here. Now, the other interesting thing is if you probably worked in AX, you do know that these AX transactions, you may have subsidiaries in different countries. They may deal in different currencies. So you might have currencies in different, you may have transactions in different currencies in your database. Now, when you report that using a cube, you need to add up apples and oranges, right? You need to add them. You need to add them by converting into a common currency. So we have that support built into the cubes. So the idea is these transactions would be in different currencies, but then the cubes would know how to convert them into any currency that you want using the exchange rates and the metadata defined in the system. For an example, if it's an invoice date, you can say that, hey, the invoice needs to be converted using this date, maybe the document date, but not the settled date. You can make that determination. So once you've done that, that's all you need to specify. I'm not going to hit next here because it's going to take me about 5-10 minutes, but I've done this earlier. I want to show you something here. So next, what the wizard does is, now you made certain selections to modify the project. The wizard will actually tell you in advance the changes it is going to make to the project, right? For an example, we have selected certain additional dimensions to be added. It will show you the new dimensions that are being added. And because these dimensions are being added, of course, there's new relationships that are being created into the measures. Because you've added dimensions, now you want some measures to be sliceable by them. The wizard has automatically found out what those relationships are, and it says, okay, I'm going to make these measures sliceable by these new dimensions you've added, right? Now, in case there are things that existing things get modified as a result of what you're doing in the wizard, it will show you those as well. Now, the reason why we do that is, of course, you can opt not to do so. Assume you have a scenario where you've actually gone into BI Dev Studio, you've modified some stuff in there, so you might not want the wizard to override them, right? That's why we give you this control. Now, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to pick the defaults here. If I pick the defaults, again, I get to the screen where I show the ability to deploy and process cubes, right? So that's basically very quickly on how you can modify a cube using the wizard-driven UI. Because the most common modifications, we made it really easy and simple. It's all done through a wizard. Now, another interesting thing is, we talked about earlier the ability to configure your cubes for AX licenses and config keys. The idea is simple. Maybe you'll buy an initial set of licenses, and maybe as you go on, you might realize, hey, I want to buy some more licenses, or maybe I'm not really using this functionality, or you might want to turn off certain configurations in AX. Now, in Dynamics AX 2012, your cubes will not break if you make configuration changes in AX. They'll continue to work. But what you can do is, you can actually choose this wizard and apply this configuration into cubes so that the cubes that are not relevant, to the functionality that you have implemented in AX will just get removed from the project. So you don't need to go through a 30-page white paper. It'll just happen automatically. Okay? Thank you. So in short, basically what we have done is we've built in capabilities that will enable a partner or an implementer who's not a BI specialist to do some of the most common customizations and configurations using a wizard-driven UI, right? Now, of course, sometimes you have more complex requirements. Now, the idea is that maybe you're a seasoned BI developer, or maybe you have a BI implementation that exists already. You want to now extend the pre-built solution so that either maybe it would be an integration with your existing solution or an existing data warehouse. So how do you do that? Now, in this case, we assume that you're a developer. You basically you're a seasoned developer in either AX or in BI. And again, let's start with the developer interface. And of course, what you can do is you'll see this new Dynamics AX project. Now, as we keep on making changes to the project, I said that the project is in the AOT. So therefore, we're a good citizen of the AOT. So whatever changes you've done are saved in your own layer, right? And you can export it, you can import it, you can delete your layers, you can do whatever you do as in the AOT. Now, the other thing is you can actually edit this project using SQL BI tools. So if you right-click and hit Edit, what will happen is actually it will I modified the project earlier, so I had this launched already. So what happens is you'll be able to open the project in BI Dev Studio. Now, if you're a BI developer, you probably know this by heart. It's not a simple tool, but then the idea is it basically loads the pre-built BI solution here. And you can see the 11 cube schemas that we've built. Let's open the general ledger cube. You will also see all the dimensions that are there in the pre-built cube. And of course, we have customized it, so you'll see the customized dimensions as well. And you'll see the dimension usage that got created. Of course, these usages got created based on the AX relationships. The tools assumed that and then created them. And of course, you'll see the calculations and the KPIs that are in the pre-built solution. So any of these items are customizable using the BI Dev Studio. The other thing is, of course, you'll notice the translations. Right now the labels are, this is actually what we call a test build. So it's not the actual strings. But you'll see the Arabic text being added. You'll see the Chinese text being added. The idea is, if you launch this, if an Arabic user launches this in Excel, you'll see the Arabic text in here, right? That's the whole idea. The other thing you will see is, of course, the data source view. Is anyone familiar with data source view? Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. Few of you. So the reason why I asked that is the data source view, is the place where we have denormalized and where we have sort of transformed the AX schema into the cube schema. So this is almost like the intermediate step. And the idea is actually you can go and modify the data source view as and when needed. You can add additional data sources. You can bring them in. And you will notice that we have brought in most of the AX metadata into this, and we have denormalized it. Like the AX types, like enumerations, we've normalized them. We've brought in the strings. It's a little complex, but if you're a BI developer, you'll get this right away. So with that in mind, I just wanted to showcase some of the capabilities of the pre-built solution and the ability to extend that using the BI tools that you already know how to use.
So I want to circle back and kind of where we started, the life cycle, the BI life cycle. We started with the deployment of the cubes. Directly thereafter, the information was immediately made available to the end users, to Sarah and Arnie, on their role centers, and they could access the information via reports in Excel and analysis cubes. When changes were identified as being needed, we brought in the IT side of the equation, and Melinda showed how we can update and configure the cubes and do custom enhancements within bids as well. So in summary, the end users, we saw the powerful BI content, how the out-of-the-box solution set is able to provide the end user groups with the information that's actionable and meaningful to their concerns. We showed how BI is integrated into the user experience. We've got the role centers, we've got the list pages, we've got the ad hoc query that we showed. So it's very integrated into the solution. We have accessing of data through very familiar tools, Excel being a primary example of that. From the technical side, we saw how very easy it was to implement the solution. We have wizard-driven UIs that not only for the AX install itself, but also the project update wizard. Whether we're deploying the project, whether we're updating it, configuring it, The wizard takes care of those common scenarios for us. So it's very short and easy to, short time to implement and easy to do. The common customizations, again, are covered as part of the wizard, project update wizard. From a development standpoint, productivity is increased, enhanced by reusing the metadata and the business logic that's available in AX. And again, using familiar tools, the BIDS, the Business Intelligence Development Studio, something that this group is familiar with. We wanted to call out some related sessions. The CSAX 24, extending the reach of your Microsoft Dynamics through the new Microsoft Office interoperability. This was called out in the Dynamics AX general session yesterday. This session will be held this afternoon from 3 to 4 o'clock and tomorrow from 1:30 to 2:30. Next, we have the Business Intelligence and Financial Reporting in Microsoft Dynamics AX 2009. If you have interest in the AX 2009 product, this is a good session to go to. That is also being shown twice, 10:30 to 11:30 this morning, and 1:30 to 2:30 tomorrow afternoon. And lastly, a deep dive for reports in Microsoft Dynamics AX 2012. There's a session, the deep dive session is this afternoon from 4:30 to 6 o'clock.
So with this, folks, we have time for a couple of questions. If you have any questions, please step out to the mics. Yes.
What about security in the cubes?
Good question. So in AX 2012, security is administered in SSAS server. The new security, the security that you apply on the AOS side does not automatically apply to cubes. But we've actually made it easier. In the sense, what we've done is now the pre-built solution ships with a set of security roles which are identical to the security roles that ship with the AX solution. So the idea is now, security is driven through Active Directory, as you know. So if you have user groups that you add to, those roles in AX, you would add them in the cubes as well. Plus, also, we will be providing documentation that explains how these security contexts map into the cube context. So we haven't done a feature that automatically, synchronizes, but then we've helped you with the process. Yes, please.
Is there a layer of security that can allow someone to use the cubes but not drill through?
So the question is there a layer of security that enables a user to view the numbers but not enable drill through into? Yes, there is. So in fact, in SQL Server Analysis Services, when you specify security, you can actually disable somebody from doing drill throughs. You can do that.
Okay, so that's the native BI of SQL.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, sir.
Seems to me if you did a good job laying out your financial reporting through this tool, that maybe you wouldn't need to use the management reporter.
That's a good question. Is that your question?
It seems like it would be a duplicated effort, potentially.
Well, that's a good question. Of course, the answer would unfortunately depend on your requirements. For certain financial slice and dicing sort of investigative sort of work, cubes would probably be a really good option. But of course, if you want to maybe create financial statements like cash flow statements and things, maybe you might want to go for a management reporter or the sort of the pre-built financial reporting tool inside AX 2012. You might want to do that. I'm sorry, David. Anything more to add?
It's a companion. I concur. Yes. It wouldn't replace management reporter.
Yeah. So folks, looks like there's no more questions. If you have any, we're going to stick around here and maybe a little bit later out there. Do feel free to ask any questions if you will. There's a whole lot of opportunities for you to get together with your peers, and feel free to please fill an evaluation form. We value your feedback, and you're also helping a cause by doing so. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.